Hi, my name is Tim Hughes, and I'm really energized and excited to be here today. I'm going to talk to you about social selling, and I'm going to walk you through a little story and a little scenario. I'm going to share my screen and walk you through some slides. I am going to talk to you about some things that may take you a little bit outside your comfort zone. What I want to talk about is the way that the world works today in digital, and that is very different from the way that the world worked back in 1980 and 1990, when cold calling and email marketing was invented 30, 40 years ago. So I'm going to talk about the world that it works today. And just to give you some background, my name is Tim Hughes. I'm the CEO of a company called DLA Ignite. We're the longest running social selling company or social transformation company in the world. And I've written 3 books. My latest book, Social Selling Techniques to Influence Buyers and Change Makers, the 2nd edition, was out in November. And I'm going to talk to you through some of the concepts that I go through in the book. So we talk to a lot of organizations that talk about the fact that they're struggling. They don't seem to know why they're struggling, even though they're doing sort of the things that we did 30, 40 years ago. And you know, we've changed. We're living in the post-COVID world, and all kinds of things have changed. You know, we don't use all kinds of things. We use fax machines anymore. We don't use Sony Walkmans anymore because things have changed, and sales and marketing has to change with it. So what is social selling? It's a question that we get asked a lot. So there's lots of terms out there: social selling, digital selling, virtual selling, remote selling, modern selling. We actually see social selling as this. This is our definition. It's about using your presence and behavior on social media to build influence, make connections, grow relationships and trust, which lead to conversations and commercial interaction. Now, the mistake that a lot of people make is that they think that social media is about posting things, or you know, it's what they don't understand is that actually social is about conversations. Conversations is how we generate sales. And it's always been the case. It's what you sell, what I sell requires a conversation. So we're actually using social media as an ability to create a conversation. That conversation can take place on the telephone. It can take place on Zoom. We're not saying that the whole sales transaction has to take place on social media. We're using social media as a platform to enable us to get conversations and to get conversations at scale. But also that there's a wider implication. We're just talking about selling today, but you can actually use social strategically across the business. So for example, at Telstra, this is a mission statement they use from the strategy that they put together. They see a social organization, so an organization using digital and social media as its core, as a platform that closing the distance between clients, prospects, remote employees, and potential recruits. We have one customer, for example, who has stopped using headhunters and using job ads because they don't need to anymore, because people are seeing them online and going, that's the company I want to work for, and are contacting them and saying, you know, I want to come and work for you. And that's a different proposition. You can use it in procurement. You can use social media in customer service, but we're just going to talk about sales. And this ability to use social across the whole of the enterprise will strip out cost for you and make you more efficient. There's a great business process re-engineering piece that can actually take place across your business that will make you, as I say, more cost efficient and more effective. But let's talk about sales. So from a sales and marketing perspective, what we find is that our clients are looking for these 5 things, and this is what they get from projects. So visibility. How can we be seen by more people? How can we get trusted advisor status? So how is it that we can be in a situation where people go, that looks like a company that can help us, let's get them in and actually and let's talk to them. So we get into deals, into sales far earlier. How can we recruit and retain the best talent? And our customers are becoming the employer of choice, because we know that the modern is not just the modern buyer, but the modern job hunter is on social media. So there's some recent research that says that 95% of job hunters use social media to find a job. I don't know what the other 5% do, but you know, it's the majority of people are using social media. And what we're doing when we're looking for a job is we're going online and going, is that the company I want to work for? Where's the CEO? That's the CEO. Is that the CEO I want to work for? Is that do they have a diverse management team? They're making the decisions based on what you look like online. And we're going to talk about that in more detail. How can you get more engagement and a shared sense of purpose? And that's something that's really important as well. And of course, how do we get pipeline? How can we get growth? And how can we get new customers? And that's important from a business perspective. And that's really what we're here to talk about today. Let's have a bit of a history lesson. So when social media came out, people didn't know what to do with it. So they gave it to marketing and they kind of put it in a cupboard and they bring it out every 2 weeks. And they probably put a post out that say, hey, buy my product because we're great. We're a great company. And they may send an email out saying, can you actually like it? I will pretty much guarantee that you're not driving any revenue from that post at all. And if you're driving no revenue, then the question is, why are you doing it? Because whatever you do in sales and marketing has to have a return on investment. And as leaders or people watching this, you need to be going back to your organizations and asking that question. You will get a response, which will be, well, we're getting visibility of likes and whatever. That's not what social selling is about. Social selling is about getting meetings at scale and getting revenue. So I'll talk about how we industrialize the ability of going onto social media and generating leads at scale. The other thing is that you need to be looking at social media from a strategy perspective. If you look at the figures, and I'm going to come to those in a moment, we know that the modern buyer, modern job hunter, the modern investor are all on digital. They've moved from analog to digital, and we need to move our sales and marketing to do that as well. And you know, we're now in the fifth industrial revolution, and we need strategy to do that rather than just trying to mess about around the edges. So let's look at the data. This comes out from We Are Social and Meltwater. They pay for it, but it's Simon Kemp on LinkedIn who puts it together. If you're not following Simon Kemp, then he's a great person to follow. This came out in January 2023, so it's fairly up to date. And what it shows is that now nearly 60% of the world's population are active on social media. So that means that we know that our buyers and our prospects and our future employees and our future investors are active on social media. And what does active mean? Well, the average person in the world who are connected to social media spends 2 hours and 30 minutes a day on social media. That's what active means. Now, the Philippines spend 5 hours a day. Some people spend, but the average person is 2 hours and 30 minutes. We therefore know that our buyers are on social media. We know that they're active. So how do we connect to them, and what is it they're looking for, and what can we do? We also know, and this came out a while ago. This is from Gartner saying that the buyers now, and we all do this. We want to buy something. We pick up our mobile phones, and what we do is that we say, okay, let's do some research. We don't have time to go into it, but there's difference from search and discovery. So classic searches, we go to social media and we go to Google and we search for something. How many, what's the top 10 Italian restaurants in London? Whereas what we're doing with social media is that we're coming to social media and we may not actually know the question to ask. We're doing discovery. So we have a client, for example, Namos Consulting. They're a 120-person Oracle consultancy. They just signed a $2.6 million deal. How did they do that? Well, I'll explain to you how they'll do that in a moment. But a buyer was out there on social media. They were looking for the products and services that Namos provide. They found them. There was then a conversation, the conversations that have taken place between buyers and sales people for years, and that turned into a $2.6 million deal. They've subsequently taken another $500,000 out of that company. Now, this is what I'm talking about. This is where people are doing serious transactions and making serious money by investing in social media as a strategy and empowering their people. The other thing that's happened is that buyer teams have got bigger. So Gartner say that the average buyer team is about 10 people. We have a client that's a supply chain software company, and they say that they have 100 stakeholders in each of their sales. So how do we actually get around and connect to all those people? If you think about at the end of a sales cycle, there's a meeting and we all get together and we say, okay, we're going to vote on which solution are we going to buy. You want to be in the position where everybody votes for you. That means that you've got to get round everybody. You've got to influence those people. You've got to probably build a relationship with those people to get them to vote. And starting a relationship by annoying them, and I'm being polite, by sending people spam emails and trying to make cold calls is not a great place to start. Especially if, like me, you don't take cold calls and you don't read spam emails. And all I do with spam emails is create a rule and they forever go into the waste paper basket. And so do your prospects and customers as well. So how do we actually get around that? And then what happened was that COVID struck. And COVID has made a whole bunch of changes. You're now not necessarily calling a client who's got a desk phone sitting in the office. They may actually be working from home. We're also finding that the number of conferences have gone down. People are not necessarily confident at going to conferences. So what are you going to do to actually get the leads and meetings that you want? Importantly, everything has changed. We know that in 2023 that our buyers are on social media, they're on digital, and we need to be there as well. So let's look at some things at the background. Some of you may remember Top Gear, the TV program. It's been syndicated around the world. It's a program about cars. And in this case, back in the day, this was when Jeremy Clarkson, Richard Hammond, the Stig were part of the Top Gear. Now, the thing about this is that what you remember is the people. You don't remember that they were driving through the Atacama Desert in a Lamborghini. That's one of the differences that we're seeing. Also, does anybody know who this is? This is Supercar Blondie. This is Alex Hershey. She's the most influential person in the world to do with cars. So if you're the chairman of BMW or the chairperson of Mercedes, what you'll do is that you'll ship out your car to Alex. She's an Australian living in Dubai, and you get her to drive it because she is the person that's going to make or break that car. The other thing is, you're probably sitting there, but yes, but brand's really important. Look at Nike. You know, they've got 8 million followers on Instagram. Yeah, that's right. But if Nike want to sell tennis equipment, they ask Serena Williams to do it because she's got more followers. They want to sell basketball equipment, they ask LeBron James to do it because he's got more followers than the Nike brand. And if they want to sell football equipment or soccer equipment, if you're in the US, you get Cristiano Ronaldo to do it. Now, interesting about Cristiano Ronaldo is that Cristiano Ronaldo has 7 times more followers than the top 10 brands in the world put together. So he has more followers than Apple, Amazon, Samsung, Microsoft put together. And the reason for that is that personality beats brand every day. This is something that people are still trying to grapple with, because social media is social media. What we're looking for is a relationship, a conversation. We don't build relationships with brands. Well, we may build one with Nike, but actually when it comes to buying the tennis equipment, we go to Serena Williams, or what we're doing is that we're building relationships with people. And social media, in effect, is I'm following you, you're connecting with me. I've had a couple of people from the audience have already connected to me. They've not connected to my company. They've connected to me. And when I leave, or if I leave and go to somewhere else, then that relationships go with me. They don't go with the brand. And this is one of the things that marketing is still trying to grapple with, the fact that personality beats brand and has done and always will. So let's imagine for a second that you've got to get to the airport, you've got to get on a plane and you're late. There's 2 modes of transport. Are you going to pick mode 1 or mode 2? Clearly, it's a trick question. We're all going to go for mode 2. We're late. We're going to get the fast car. Now, the thing about that car is it doesn't have an engine. It's a prototype. And the important thing is that we all jump to conclusions. We take a small bit of information and we extrapolate that out. And what people are doing right now is They're coming to your social media profiles and your presence, and they're making and jumping to a conclusion. So they're seeing your LinkedIn profile, for example, and seeing what you post, and they're jumping to a conclusion. So if your LinkedIn profile is written as a CV, what conclusion do you think I would jump to? You're looking for a job, clearly. If your LinkedIn profile is written like you wrote LinkedIn profiles 10 years ago, what conclusion would I jump to? Clearly, you don't understand what's going on in the modern world today, because if you did, you would have taken the time to write your LinkedIn profile in a manner that meets the sort of the threshold of what a good LinkedIn profile should look like. So we're also looking at your active social presence. If we had someone come through recently said, yes, I'm a social media expert, and we said, but you haven't posted on LinkedIn for 2 years. And that's the difference. We're jumping to conclusions about who you are and what you do. And everybody is doing that, whether you're in sales or whether you're in human resources or whether you're the CEO. So what we're seeing is this movement away from the profile on the left-hand side, which is a LinkedIn profile that doesn't really say anything, to something like this. This is Catherine Cole. She has a keyword optimized LinkedIn profile. The LinkedIn profile tells a story about from her first job all the way to who she is. When you read it, you actually go, do you know, Catherine looks like a really interesting person. So it's not written in I'm a boring corporate robot and I am I'm highly energetic and I'm results driven. We don't, because no one believes you. I'm results driven, you're results driven, we all are. We don't want that. What we're looking for, and research shows, is that people come to social media for a conversation. They don't come to read brochures or brochureware. They come for a conversation. We ignore brochures and brochureware, and I'll show you some of the research that details that in a moment. We come and we look at people's profiles and we check them out and we see, is Catherine the type of person that we could do business with? She sells something that I think that we could buy. Why don't I contact her? And what we're seeing is this move away from salespeople where we go, I don't believe you. I don't believe a word you say. I don't trust you. You're going to try and sell me something I don't want, to actually saying, do you know, this person looks like it could help me. They look like an expert and they walk towards you. That's transformation taking place on social media. So one of the things that you'll find is that your summary title is your most visible thing about you on the internet. If you Google yourself, don't do that right now. Listen to me. But if you Google yourself, it will show your name, your photo, and your summary title. Your job is, if someone's actually Googled you, is to get someone to go, do you know, that person looks really interesting. I'm going to go and look at their LinkedIn profile. Why? Because if you have the professional edition and above, LinkedIn tell you who've looked at your LinkedIn profile, and then you've got an ability to have a conversation. So your LinkedIn title, your summary title, is there to generate a conversation. It's not what you do, which is what a lot of LinkedIn experts tell you to do, because actually it's a terrible mistake to do that. It's why you do it. Come and have a look at my LinkedIn profile. Have a look at my summary title. It will be something that you've never seen in your life. And you'll go, okay, now I see, and I'm curious, and I want to actually look at that further. So unfortunately, there's 7.12 million CEOs that don't understand about how to stand out. And there's even 113,000 thought leaders out there that don't realize that there's actually there's other thought leaders, and the whole job about being a thought leader is being different and standing out. So there's this thing, psychological thing in our heads called Gestalt thinking. What we do is that we take patterns and we form other patterns. So what you see is the blue circles, but we actually see a blue square as well. So that's what most people look like on LinkedIn. You kind of all merge in together. Whereas if we look different, what happens is that we've changed our win rate from 1 in 16 to 1 in 2. For those of you in marketing, you shouldn't be surprised about this, because in your marketing theory, you would have done the Hedwig von Restoff or isolation effect, which shows that our eyes are drawn to the pink pumps, not the black shoes. because this is what everybody sees on LinkedIn. This is what your buyers, your customers see. In fact, there's this fashion at the moment to actually become even more morphed in together. If I can use a Star Trek analogy, it's like the Borg, where everybody has to look exactly the same as everybody, and you're just it's self-sabotage. It's quite bizarre. Because this is what the buyer sees, and what we're looking for is something different. And I'm going to talk about that in a moment. So, but most importantly, you look and sound the same. So what does a modern business look like? This is Cyberhawk. This is the C-suite. This is the COO, the CMO, the CEO, the CRO, but also the CIO and the CFO. All look like, you know, these people look, I could do business with them. I could go down the pub with Adam. Yeah, he looks like a really nice chap. Yeah, they look like really approachable. So if we think about into the analog world, we're at a conference and we walk onto a stand, and what happens is that someone goes, "Hi, how you doing?" Yeah, well, I'm looking for this. Oh yeah, we can help you. Take a seat. We'll get you a coffee. And well, let's have a chat. And you're talking to the senior leadership. What happens at the moment, to use that similar analogy, is your sales team are basically walking out onto social media and punching me in the face with a brochure. Whereas what we need to do is actually show ourselves and our culture and say, this is who we are. We're a great organization. This is what we do. And for the C-suite who are out there saying, well, I don't really want to do that. Well, okay, that's fine. But this is how digital business works today. This is how business works in 2023. And I realized that in 1980, you didn't want to do that. But in 2023, our buyers, our future employees, our investors are out there looking for people and the companies that they're going to invest in and work for. So, for example, there's some research recently that shows that if your CEO is active on social media, you get 15% more investment. If you're on Twitter, you get 5% more investments. Therefore, there is a monetary value attached to your CEO and your C-suite being available on social media. And Cyberhawk have been told by their VC that they will IPO faster and at higher rates by being active on here. And we see this as the starting line. This is the starting line for business and for C-suite today. This is what we're looking for as the benchmark out there for your organization to be competitive, to get a competitive advantage. And it's a business imperative to do that. So let's look at some things, okay? Let's go into some of the detail, drop down a level. Let's look at the importance of a network. Now, we all have, or many of us have had, business cards in the past. I've still got a pile next to my desk. And of course, they'll all be out of date. Whereas on LinkedIn, everybody keeps their business card up to date, because whenever we change jobs, we change things as well. And what our job is to do is actually to have a big and as varied network as we can. I talked earlier about search. The way that search works on LinkedIn is different from the way that search works on Google. Search works based on how close you are to somebody in your network. So if your buyers are going onto to social media and saying, I'm looking for your product or service, if you're connected to them, if you're not connected to them, they won't find you. You'll be invisible. And this is the issue. You need to be connecting to people. LinkedIn give you the opportunity to connect to 200 people a week. You need to be using that, and especially your sales team need to be using that. So if we take the company on the left-hand side, this is from my LinkedIn profile. I have no connections to Spalding Ridge. I'm never going to sell to them. Whereas with BMW Group, they happen to be a client of ours, but I'm connected to 24 people. So I'm more likely to sell to BMW. In my book, I talk about how to run quarterly business reviews, QBRs, with your sales team. And nowadays, if they're not connected to people in their particular target accounts, they're not going to sell to them. That you need to be connected, and you need to be building relationships with those. Now, when I say connecting, I said that's not spamming them. That's not connecting and pitching. That's using the connection as an ability for you to have a conversation. Just like you would walk up to somebody at a networking event and have a conversation there. If you're spamming people, you won't get you probably won't get a response. You might even get your LinkedIn profile cut by LinkedIn, but certainly you won't get the type of responses that I'm going to show you. You also need to be spreading your influence. So if we take these two pictures, they're very, very similar. The difference is that Sydney has a very small network against Leanne's, and therefore very few people have connected with Sydney's, whereas a lot of people have connected with Leanne's. Now, what I'm going to talk about in a bit is why likes and comments are really, really important. Now, a lot of people think that likes and comments are vanity. If people are telling you that, they don't know what they're talking about. They don't know anything about social media. So the other thing that you'll find about LinkedIn is that when you go through your timeline, what it will do is it's going to show you content from your network, but also your network's network. What it's trying to do is get you to get you to connect to as many people as it can. So what you're able to do as a salesperson or an HR person or a leader is spread your network, not just in the way that you connect to your network, but also your network's network. So we talk about the difference between traditional marketing and setting each of your people up as in effect as a micro-influencer. The way that traditional marketing works, and you're probably hearing presentations about this, which is where what you do is you write content, you make it as bland as you can to try and appeal to as many people as you can. And the classic thing that marketing do is they say, buy my product because we're great, which is exactly what everybody else says. And what happens is it just becomes noise out there. I mean, you've been in a situation as well as I have where you're going through your timeline on LinkedIn and you're going boring, 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 boring. Boring, 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 boring. Oh, that's interesting. As salespeople and marketers, we need to be that's interesting. We need to be the person where us as the buyer is stopping and saying, I'm looking to engage in that. What we do is that we set the salespeople, the employees up as micro-influencers, and they spread their influence out in through their networks. Now, when you connect to people, when it's not just a one-to-one relationship, what you're doing, it's actually exponential. But the detail of that is I'd need to go into some maths about how social networks work. But it's your ability to grow your networks at scale is just by connecting one-on-one, and you get the scale out. So the importance of content. So we did some research around what good content looks like, and you can do that. You can go on LinkedIn and you can count the likes. If it's got very few likes, no one likes it. If it's got lots of likes, then people like it. And what you'll find is that everything below the red line, very few people like. We're not interested in corporate propaganda. We're not interested in brochures because we know they say all the same thing. Buy my product because it's great. If we were interested in those things, we would go to a website. We're not interested in it on social media. In fact, research shows that we come to social media to be social, not to read brochures. In fact, if you're posting brochures or brochureware on social media, it also shows that what you're doing is that you're training the algorithm and training your customers to ignore you. But there again, if you're not posting on social media, you're totally invisible. So we said right at the header of this presentation that sales is about conversations. How do I get a conversation with somebody? Because conversations create sales. So we're not coming to social media to post. We're coming to social media to start a conversation. Our content needs to start a conversation. Our content needs to resonate with the people that we're trying to influence, the people that we're trying to get either to influence or influence to buy. So how do we do that? Well, this is Sophie. She has a network of 1,600 people, and she shared with us very kindly some of the results that she was getting when she worked at Anaplan. This is her LinkedIn profile. It's a keyword optimized LinkedIn profile. As a marketeer, the more keyword optimized content that you can get on the internet, the better you are as a business, more likely to find you. Again, starting at her first job as a checkout assistant to where she is now. When she posts Corporate content, she only gets 48 views. People aren't really interested in it because it's, I don't know, I can't even be bothered to read it, to be honest. And this one, she works in partner marketing, so she got 3 likes here and 399 views, but it's not really resonating with people. People aren't commenting, people aren't liking. This has got 10 views, whereas that she posted, excuse me, a piece about where she lives that got 29,403 views. Now, she has a network of 1,600 people. This is punching outside of a network. This is taking her influence and spreading that out over social media. So really getting out into the people that you want to influence and getting out into the you know, it may be people that you want to hire, it may be people that you want to buy, but ultimately this is how you spread your influence. And then she's done that again with pictures of a Danish pastry, or a picture of herself, or a picture of where she walks in the woods. Now, what I would say is, if you're posting pictures of Danish pastries every single day, we will assume, because we all jump to conclusions, that all you do all day is eat Danish pastries. So what we need to do with, as sellers, or as people, is that we need to have a portfolio of content that when people come to your LinkedIn profile, they know what you stand for. Now, there's nothing wrong in posting a brochure every now and again, but we're looking for you as an individual. We're looking to see your expertise. A brochure doesn't provide you with that. So come and have a look at my LinkedIn profile, and what you'll see is different types of content. There's video, there's written content, there's human content. And this is her profile views, and you can see when we started working with her in September, and the profile views went up. Obviously, profile views are an ability for you to have a conversation. We know that conversations create sales. So, but what about the results? You're probably screaming, and so I've got 2 different types of results for you. Two. One is an individual contributor, so an entrepreneur, one person. And we've also got a partner of ours. Our go-to-market is through partners, and we have a partner that's basically running in effect like a telesales team, but what they're doing is totally using social selling, and I'm going to show you the results so you can do a comparison between social selling and cold calling. You'll find the results pretty interesting. So this is the entrepreneur individual contributor. They put out a humanized post, and off the back of it, they got 6 C-level meetings, 2 proposals, and 1 purchase order. Now, what I should explain is they have they'd already created a buyer-centric profile, which is an important thing to do when we've shown you that. They've got a wide and varied network, so you just can't go out onto LinkedIn and suddenly expect to get results from zero. And they've used our methodology behind the content and said, I'm going to create content that's actually going to generate likes and comments, because that shows people are actually resonating. It's digital resonance with what I'm doing, and therefore what I'm able to do is then start conversations with those people. The second best one that they put out was about Led Zeppelin. Now, they're not putting out posts about brochures or how great your company is, because everybody's doing that, but this is about resonating with people. This is about, you know, if you've come to listen to me to find out how you're going to generate pipeline and revenue in 2023, and I'm telling you. The second one is a sales team. So this is 2.5 full-time people that are acting equivalent. In the old days, they would have been basically taking cold calls. So they're 2.5 people that have been cold callers. We train them in social selling, and then what we've done is that we're measuring all the leading indicators. So don't need to worry about necessarily about the table. What this is how we're actually looking at and measuring the indicators, so we're able to actually build up a benchmark and benchmark people who are social selling and benchmark people who are cold calling. The key thing is that they're getting a response rate from equivalent of a cold call. So most cold callers get a 1% response rate. We're getting a 6% response, 6.7% response rate. In addition to that, what we're doing is that we're looking at the next step. So when you cold call someone and you annoy them, your objective is to drive a next step, which is a meeting, a demo, or something, but you're driving the sale on. What we're able to do is get a near 40% response. So 6.7% people are converting rather than 1% as a cold call, but we're getting nearly 40%. That's exponential growth. So if you're looking to get pipeline and therefore revenue at scale, there's only one solution now. And we have the benchmark figures and the data to prove that. There's only one solution, which is social selling. So, but it's not all about pipeline and content. And you know, this is what a business looks like today. This is what, you know, I could walk towards this. This is a company I want to do business with. This is a company I want to go and work for. They look really, really cool. This is a company that's going to have a brilliant culture. And this is what the modern buyer, the modern job hunter, the modern investor, they're all looking for this. And these are our friends, Cyberhawk. Again, they tend to work in a more technical area because they're a drones company. But what they're doing is, again, is demonstrating their expertise, demonstrating their culture, and demonstrating that who they are as individuals. Very, very quick advert for us. What we do is that we have a social selling program. We have a social strategy program. It's the only social selling qualification in the world. It's backed by the Institute of Sales Professionals. And so it's a qualification just like you'd get from a school or a college. Rather than all the others are just basically you attended, which for us, we didn't ever think that was particularly worthwhile. So I've attended a course. Yeah, so what? This is about having a qualification and something that people can then never take away from you. Just to remind you, I'm Tim Hughes. My third book, Social Selling Techniques to Influence Buyers and Changemakers, second edition, is available on Amazon worldwide. It goes through a lot of these things in more detail, and certainly if you're interested in a business, it's a really, really good place to start. And at least if you start there, you'll be in a position to understand what social and what social selling is about. So thank you so much for listening and watching, and I hope that gave you some ideas and gave you a view of the way that the world has changed and the way that the world works in 2023. And I hope that can help you going forward. So happy selling. Thank you.